have some funky music there on the intro. Uh, this is the Muslim Street. I am Malik Aziz, editor in chief of the Muslim Street, and we have with us, of course, a founding member of the National Association of Black Journalists, and also a founding member and co-convener of the Balfour 23. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today. Main topic: can Iran liberate Sudan? We're going to talk, kind of delve into the Iranian war and its effects on the African diaspora. Where does the African diaspora fit in? And as you may well know, Africa, in terms of continents, houses the largest Muslim population in the world. That's a reality on the continent. All right, I was having a sort of like a conversation. I do this a lot of time, I have conversations with myself and to others, but ain't nobody around but me. I think of Earth, Wind, and Fire said back in the 70s, talking to yourself is fine.
There you go. Feel much better.
It makes you feel much better. Just know when to hold the line. That's it, right? Don't go too far with it. So anyway, one of those conversations I was having was explaining to our people that our ancestor, Kunta Kinte, came here. The famous story, which is based in Roots, back in the 1970s, mid 1970s. I never forget when it came out. It was the winter of 1976, and he's the winter of 1977, excuse me, and it was clear that our ancestor Kunta Kinte was Muslim, and that 5 times a day he made his prayers. And we also know, reading further into African history, the great Muslim empires of Mali, let me put them in order. The last half of the Ghanaian Empire, then we move into the Malian Empire, and then into the Songhai Empire, which bridges us up to the European slave trade. And essentially 2.5 of our last 3 empires were Muslim empires. And the height of the Malian Empire in the early part of the 14th century is a man by the name of Mansa Musa. I heard an African scholar who I utmostly respect say about Mansa Musa that he was nominally Muslim. This is a non-Muslim African scholar saying this, African-American scholar saying this. And this is a ploy to try to shrink the Islamic influence in Africa. One of the lies that you see floating around because of YouTube and people don't read and research, and there's no counter discussion, is that the Arabs came into Africa and enslaved the Africans and imposed their religion on it. First of all, there's no wars in sub-Saharan Africa when Islam arrives there for 400 years. We can document this. We can also document who in the hell is this Arab that you're talking about that will come from the Hijaz into through North Africa and find himself in sub-Saharan Africa warring with the indigenous people. It's just didn't happen in that respect. Now, once we identify who this Arab is, the original Arabs were African, and we can prove that with no limited time. It was the Africans who settled the Hijaz, Mecca and Medina, period. We know that when the prophet Abraham brought his second wife, Hajar, and the infant son, Ismail, to Mecca, and that started Mecca, there was nobody there. There's literally nobody there. Zero. Okay? But these 2 Africans that were left there by Abraham, she, Hajar, or Hagar, was African. Gives birth to another African by the name of Ismail. He gives birth to Abraham's grandson, who was named Kedar. Kedar literally translates into the dark one. So, by the time of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the Hijaz or the Arab Peninsula is still dark, and we can get into that at another range. But to understand this African diaspora, and what I just quoted, the last 2.5 empires is recent history, right? It's not ancient history, and we can go into that. But we're going to dive into this subject. You can find, of course, us at www.themuslimstreet.com. You can also find us across all social media at the Muslim Street. We had a great conversation with Imad El Turk and a project that's going on in Jackson, Mississippi. That's a superior a coalition between Arabs and Africans, right? That's going on down in Jackson. And Art, we're going to head down there and do some other discovery. And we're produced out of Ghana, Accra, Ghana, on some mountain up in Accra by the Lance Scurv show. And Lance works in the background for us, producing the Muslim Street. One other thing before we dive into our context, we try to encourage our people to read books. You can get free books at libraries. Wherever you are, go get a library card. If I catch you and you don't have a library card, we're going to have a conversation about that. You can get audiobooks at the library. You can get, hardcover books, whatever you want to do. But we have to get back to reading books. We were reading books in the 90s when all these Black bookstores were hosting panel discussions. And it was a very energetic time as we talk about Black consciousness. But the latest book that I'm reading is a book called Remembering Paradise Park. Paradise Park, written by a Black woman here in Florida. And she documents this park in Central Florida during Jim Crow that was for, as you can see, for colored people only, right?
And we have a lot of those parks around the country.
Yeah, and essentially Black people made that literally into a paradise, and it's just exceptional. So this is my read today. The reason why I picked this book back up is that not only I met the author during Black History Month, but me and our team at the Muslim Street were in Savannah, Georgia, at the oldest Black church in America. And the pastor of that church happened to be from Ocala, and he first thing he asked me about, do you know about Paradise Park? I said, do I know about Paradise Park? I got the book. So I was prepared to have that conversation with him. And we'll follow up a little bit more while we were there in Savannah. That's a big project that we're working on vis-a-vis Islam.
So the park is in Savannah?
No, this park is in Ocala.
Central
gotcha. Florida, and I'll be going there within the next few days. But the book is subtitled Paradise Park, Remembering Paradise Park, Tourism and Segregation at Silver Springs. They had the glass bottom boat and all that other good stuff there. But Black people made this a paradise for themselves and their families.
In Michigan, we had Idlewild. Idlewild was a place that we go and vacation every summer, and it was all Black. It was up in the middle of the state, and
Idlewild. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess in Chicago, on the south side.
Now.
On Chicago, we had a couple of beaches where it was kind of like understood that this is where we're going to lay our flag. One was Rainbow Beach on the far south side of Chicago. And the other was 31st Street Beach, very nice places. And, I never forget, I was talking to on Instagram Live last week with the sister who sang the title cut in Mo Better Blues, Cinda Williams, who was from the south side of Chicago, by the way, right? When she was a little girl, her mom and dad packed the family up and moved to Muncie, Indiana, but she was really from Chicago. And we're talking about Rainbow Beach and how, when you're a little boy, 5, 6, 7 years old, and as soon as that station wagon was parked in that parking lot, we bust out of my brothers and sisters and all us bust out of that car, man. And I don't even think we shut the doors, man. We just started running, boom, 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 running all the way until we could get to that water, because the water was fascinating. Lake Michigan, you grew up on the other side of Lake Michigan, looked like an ocean.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Paradise
But
Park.
we should probably ask people to also, if they've got communities and that they can remember that are along the same lines, bring those to our attention and share them here when we do our phone ins, or you can just text us and let us know, where you're texting from, and let us know of the park or the black spot that was near you. That would be a fun thing to find out, just compare some
Yeah.
notes, man. And
Yeah.
we got a lot of stuff to talk about, a lot of ground to cover today. And, wanted to jump right into it if you're prepared for that.
Yeah, so we're gonna talk about can Iran liberate Sudan? We know, Art, and I think a good place to start this conversation is that when the Israelis and Donald Trump hit Iran and killed 150, 165 little girls at their school with their bombs. When Iran struck back, it was strategic. And what they did was, we've seen maps over the past decade where there have U.S. military bases surrounding Iran, the Arab states. They hit them and totally disrupted the entire Middle East with that strategic move. Didn't need to hit America, but we're gonna hit everybody else. And now they have Donald Trump spiraling out of control.
Well, we're gonna introduce a word for the week, and the word for this week is existential. You hear that a lot in news and on some of the podcasts that you might listen to in the independent media. And the word existential is a reference to what Iran is feeling right now. Israel's and the U.S.'s attack represented an existential threat to Iran. And rather than give you a textbook Webster definition of existential threat is like if somebody showed up on your porch and they got a razor in one hand and a gun in the other, and they telling you, I'm gonna shoot you if you stand still, I'm gonna cut you if you run. You can't go nowhere. That's how Iran felt when the U.S. and Israel attacked and did what they did. They called themselves doing a decapitation. You mentioned the school. The girls that were killed in that school, well, they killed 150 to 180 or so people. Those were the children of some of the highest military officers in Iran. So it was a target. They weren't playing. And then they turned around, killed the Ayatollah. They killed certainly all of the top officials in the country that they could, because they knew they were congregated in one place. This was an existential threat to the Iranian people. You are trying to destroy not only our leadership class and elements of the country, but you're trying to destroy the very fabric of the country in and of itself. You wanted to destroy Iran existentially. So that's our word for the week, existential. You can write that down and look up your...
Yeah, that's great. Where we got brother in the comment section, King Law 4001. I hope I pronounced that right. He made a reference to me using the term sub-Sahara as related to the African continent. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's one of the things that should be abandoned. I feel your spirit on that. I was only describing that geopolitically so people can understand exactly what a line was drawn. So it wasn't said in a way.
But what you said that was really positive was that because of the Muslim and Islamic influence in Africa, that we do have to look at all of Africa as as the land of Black people, from the Cape to Cairo, from the Gambia to the Horn, and even beyond. But for now, we'll settle for that. We'll settle for that. We're not talking about sub-Saharan. We're talking about Kemet, we're talking about the Dogon culture. We're talking about, Mali, Songhay, Dahomey, and the empires that you mentioned were extremely important to the development of not only the Islamic world, but also African culture and African thought, the African world as well. One would not have been possible without the other. So this is an African war, and it gets us back to where we are with Iran. Can Iran liberate Sudan, or can it save Sudan? Sudan is being split. We can talk about the Darfur 23 and what that meant to Sudan. We went there, took a group of African Americans there to actually see for ourselves, lay eyes on it ourselves to see what was going on in Darfur. And we found out that the deaths, the discussion of 800,000 deaths, shrunk to about 8,000, and maybe 8 to 10,000. A lot of them were natural, and in the course of what was going on in the area. But it was a ruse. It was a charade that was established by the oil companies because they wanted to go in and split Sudan into two. The oil is in the southern end, so they wanted to create a South Sudan so that they could exploit those oil reserves in the south. And they used Darfur, which was right in between, in the middle of the north and the south, and used it as a wedge to create that divide so that they could annex the south from the north.
And one of the when the word divide, one of the tactics of the Europeans as they conquer the entire Black world is divide and conquer. Mm-hmm. One of their main tactics, and they'll put out some propaganda because they control all of the distribution of media in the world. Now, when we talk about Darfur and how strong that mechanism was, we even had militant Black organizations, Pan-Africanist Black organizations in the United States buying into the Zionists and Western media's propaganda vis-a-vis Darfur. And the main thrust was this, because they know, this kind of drives our ire over here. I'm talking about Black America. They said, and this is the propaganda, that Arabs were genociding Black Africans in Darfur. Now, so we were over there. We were on the ground, right? Over 3 weeks, fact-finding mission. And let's break that down. And that was the riding narrative in the press. Everybody you talk to is saying the same thing. So here, the Arab in Sudan looks just like me. And I'm as chocolate as they come. I'm double fudge chocolate. I'm blacker than black. I'm blackety black. Okay. So who they think they talking to? They're talking to stupid people who, and I gotta say this to Black America. Yeah, we see now more travel with passports, but you're traveling to have a good time. You're traveling to turn up. All right. Go on some fact-finding missions. Learn about where you're going. Stop getting on those safaris like white people. All right. Malcolm said that when you go on vacation, go see your people. We're starting to see that, Lance. People are coming to Ghana. They're coming into other parts of Africa, South Africa, etc. But you go in there and you're having parties and you're drinking all night. I mean, come on. All right. So
when are we going to start taking people to Africa from the Muslim street? We can take
exactly
people to Africa. Yeah. We can show them the real Africa. We'll show you how not to turn up, where you can turn out. We're going to go over there and turn out some stuff. But that's what we're talking about.
Let me get to this last point of that narrative. So Arabs were killing Black Africans in Darfur, genociding them, right? Now, I already debunked the first one. The second one was that Darfur were Black Africans. Yes, they're Black Africans. but they have the same religion as the Arabs in the north. All are Muslim. Darfur is 100% Muslim. So this. So we came back, and thanks to some surprise platforms, I would say WMNF, NPR here in Florida. They gave us a platform with the great Akbar Muhammad to debunk all this stuff. Operation Push, Reverend Jesse Jackson opened his doors, gave me an opportunity to give a 2-hour lecture on a Saturday right after their main program. Place was packed, so we were able to go from radio stations, and then we had our website getting information out about the lives. But one of the surprising things as I approached different Pan-African organizations, because they were buying into the media, and some of them were even being paid. And I'm only talking about what I know. I'm not saying talking about something I heard, right? Of being paid by the Zionists to further that propaganda. That I didn't understand. I didn't understand why they took such a harsh position against that, wouldn't accept the information. But go ahead.
Well, yeah, I was again just wanting to tie in what is going on in Iran right now. Iran has essentially kicked the U.S. and Israel's behind, and I don't want anybody to misunderstand the relationship between Israel and the U.S. We see them as one. They are one nation. Israel is like a sock puppet is to the United States. I mean, the U.S. can move the mouth, but Israel might make a sound every now and then, but it's ventriloquial. It is not something that is actually thought of from a real state perspective. There is no such thing as a state of Israel. There's Palestine, but there is a proxy representation of a state that masquerades as a nation and calls itself, and other people call it, and fool you every day of the week, making you think that Israel is anything other than the 51st state of the United States. They're one and the same is what I'm saying. And we have to look at it that way and understand. I wish that more of the Arab world would see them as one and not be fooled, because what is set up is a dynamic that's going on from the Iranians' standpoint to not only divide and conquer that area, but cause Muslim to fight against Muslim, Shiite to fight against a Sunni, and those areas that are being hit the hardest are all, including what is now called Israel, but we know as Palestine, those are all essentially Muslim nations. So you're bombing yourself, and America's sitting back over here on the sideline laughing at everybody because they have you thinking that Israel is just this powerful state that's causing all these problems, and but they're a sock puppet. They're a sock puppet. I'd put a sock on my hand if I could to show and illustrate that this is not a nation. It's a sock puppet state. So
yeah,
we have to understand. We have to understand that difference. But Iran has lashed out in a very strong way, because Iran has some amazing arsenal of not only missiles, but military capabilities. And who knows what is under the ground in Persia, that ancient land that goes back 6,000-7,000 years. And what they've done over all of these years to not only maintain a war operation that's never been conquered, but developing new things that have also, made them very invincible. Don't listen to what Donald Trump is saying he doesn't know what he's talking about. When he says, well, they're out of missiles and they're out of this and we sunk this and we did that. What you have done is essentially attacked an independent nation via your proxy, and you're trying to make people believe that it is someone else's fault. You're throwing a rock and hiding your hand, and America's really good at that. They throw a rock and hide the hand and make you think somebody else threw it.
You mentioned the Muslims versus the Muslims in the Middle East, and how the West, Israel, and the United States plays in that. I think for the listening audience, I just want to give just a 30,000-foot overview real quick, so we can always include this in our narrative in understanding the outcomes. The outcome is the divide and conquer, the Shia versus the Sunnis. But how did they get there? And until we understand how to get there, we can't get past the reality of the Europeans, the Americans, and the Israelis using this as a tool of domination, the divide and conquer. So recent history, and I'll start there, 1884 to 1887, Europeans sat down in Berlin and they carved up the world, right? They carved up the world, and this jumps off what we now know as European colonialism. So at the table, the Middle East was handed over to the Brits. And when the Middle East was handed over to the Brits, the British, they move into European colonialism into the Middle East, basically unopposed, right? The domination of that area in the late part of the 19th century are by the Sunni Muslims. The reason why they allowed this in without pretty much no opposition is because they were in the power position in terms of the Muslim world now, which allowed or kind of dictated how they would deal with the rest of the world. So for the Sunnis, who won out centuries ago in the battle of who would lead Islam, or who would lead the Muslims, the Europeans, they self-identified vis-a-vis the non-Muslims. The Shia, who lost out in the war centuries ago, they self-identified vis-a-vis the Sunnis. And still today, that's what's going on. That's why they hit those Sunni American proxies one by one. I mean, this is an easier target, and they have no problem with that. This is also to understand when the genocide started, the latest genocide started over in Palestine, who went to the aid of the Palestinians who are Sunni. It was not the Sunnis who surround Palestine. Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, Oman, Qatar, etc. It was the Iranians. It was Hezbollah. It was the Houthis. You know what all three of them have in common? They're all Shia. So the Shias do not accept under any circumstances this whole idea of colonialism or post-colonial rule coming into the Middle East, where the Sunnis, and this is strictly from a political perspective, this is not a religious argument. Politically, they accept it because they are fine with the status quo. And the status quo is European or worldwide white domination.
Well, that's an important distinction. And between Sunni and Shia, but I still have to correct some of the things that some of our listeners and viewers are texting us right now and letting us know under the impression that Iran is attacking these countries. Iran is not attacking Afghanistan and Iraq and Kuwait and Qatar and Bahrain and the UAE. directly. It's not attacking the citizens in those countries. It's not attacking Sunni Muslims in those countries. What it is attacking is U.S. installations in those countries.
Mm-hmm.
It's hitting radar stations. It's hitting listening posts. It's hitting military headquarters. You remember when Iraq was going on, I mean, the U.S. had a major headquarters in Qatar and also Bahrain. I mean, they had all of these facilities. Well, they haven't left those facilities. The things that they built in Iraq and in Afghanistan in order to stay there permanently, those are the targets of what Iran has hit. So when you see those things that are being attacked in those countries, remember, this is an existential threat to Iran. Your whole leadership was wiped out. Your president, your Congress, your military high offices, your Pope, in comparison, your Ayatollah, all of them were essentially eliminated in one stroke of decapitation. That means people are trying to destroy your entire culture. So with that kind of an enemy, you have to hit back hard. You have to hit back directly, and you're going to have to hit back smart. You're not trying to make the Sunni people in those other countries your enemy, your Muslim brothers, your enemies. You are trying to let them know, if you're foolish enough in your leadership classes to still keep and maintain U.S. bases, Zionist IDF bases in your country under the guise of being a Muslim state, you are going to be hit. Those stations are going to be hit, and if you're part of the collateral damage, it's because you're just that, collateral damage. So the best thing that these countries can do is evict those kinds of bases and that kind of military operation from your land. And one thing I'll say, just jumping to Sudan, the UAE has financed the war in Sudan to further divide Sudan north and south, but support the rapid support forces, both financially and military. They're doing the same thing in Sudan. This is the UAE is doing the same thing in Sudan that the U.S. is doing to the rest of the Muslim world through the proxy of Israel. So you pay somebody else to do it so that you keep your hands clean. Throw the rock, hide your hand, pretend you didn't have anything to do with it. And that's what we're seeing.
Exactly. And as we talk about the narrative and the topic of this show, its effects on the African diaspora. From an activist perspective, Art, you mentioned the Darfur 23 and the serious role it played back in 2007 with uncovering lies by the Zionist press and American propaganda to reach their ultimate goal. And that was the division of that country, which happened under Obama in 2011, and the taking of the oil. We predicted literally in 2007, part of our talking points was that if there is a split up of Sudan, that it will lead to a civil war in the South. Over 1 million people died in that situation, by the way. That could have been stopped had they listened and adhered to what we're trying to do. So one of the things I want to ask you, Art, the role of the African diaspora as it relates to conflict resolution, as it relates to fires that we literally can put out on the African continent and other places that there are hotspots that we know where the European and the other white nations want to play in for resources. Darfur 23 really kind of set a model for that. Can we build on that?
Absolutely. And I think that, we play that kind of role here in the diaspora, one of being a mediator, because we don't know where we're from. I mean, all of us from various parts of Africa don't know what our origins are naturally. And, we need to build on the fact that we can be that mediating force precisely because when I say Africa, I think of one monolithic country. And when African Americans talk about being from Africa, they're talking about one monolithic country. And because you can't pinpoint where you are from, your names have been changed to something totally different than where they started out. So you can only be claimed by maybe your appearance. And, that's something that can be done in Africa. But you definitely can educate yourself in groups. We can start book clubs and reading clubs and study the history and be able to go back and help Africa piece together and unify. That should be our goal, is to see a unified Africa. We can't continue to move forward with a piecemeal continent with 54, 56 different states and try and say that that is the solution in any kind of way. I don't care how many infrastructural projects you get paid for by the Chinese or the Indians or the Europeans. You cannot unite the continent or even be effective in negotiating one-on-one with any part of the rest of the world, because you don't have that foundational structure. But once Africa becomes unified, not only will it eliminate every problem that Africa has today, from poverty and development and deforestation and whatever problem you can identify, all of those problems could be eliminated by unifying the entire continent. You can enrich everybody. The xenophobic nonsense is going on. All of it can be wiped out instantly by unifying the continent and giving Africa the entire length and breadth of the continent for us to find settlement areas. Traoré in Burkina Faso is very strongly illustrating what can be done if Africa puts its mind to the kind of development in a very short time we could develop very seriously and have 18, 40 different Johannesburg or Harare kinds of situations all around the continent. So that people will be attracted from all around the continent to go to all places on the continent and not just congregate in those areas that feel they have a need to discriminate and say, we don't want any more Nigerians or Ghanaians here, and the xenophobic nonsense that we're hearing. So we got a lot of work to do in Africa, and we in the diaspora can put our fingers on it and we can help. That's our job.
Yeah, over 10,000 tribes on the African continent, a task that the Europeans and white supremacy will continue to exploit for political reasons, that divide and conquer, leading to, where there's smoke, there will be fire. And for Black Americans in particular, who are traveling to the African continent in tremendous numbers, over the last 5 to 7 years. Let's think about the organization, as Art talked about, with forming subgroups, peacekeeping groups. That should be a mantra from our perspective, because we're looked at from the Africans on the African continent as neutral. We don't have any skin in the game when two countries are getting ready to war and spill blood over, let's say, water rights, right? But we can play a serious position into lowering the temperature, coming up with solutions where both sides win. We saw that in Abuja in 2005, where there was an agreement that was negotiated that put that issue down in Sudan, and then here comes the Europeans with even more of their games that caused this spiraling out of control.
Well, we have a birthright to do just that. If you are Black, you are from Africa. That is your origin. That is your origin spot. I don't care how long you've been off the continent or your ancestors have been off the continent. There's no doubt that they are originally from the continent and are from Africa. So we have a birthright, and no one who is in Africa today can turn around and tell you as a diasporian African that you are not welcome, that you do not have a birthright, that you do not have a position, and like I said, a right to go there and help resolve these issues and do it wherever you can fit in on the continent. They should not have the audacity to stand up in your face and say, you don't belong here. It's none of your business. It is your business. We have to make it our business.
And it's been, and I would suggest and submit that it's been it's been a warm reception from players on the African continent to accept our input, meaning from a African diaspora, deeper still, a Black American perspective, Black Africans in America perspectives. And I'll say it just like Malcolm said it, Africans in America. Kwame Ture said it, because you talked about art, you made an emphasis on as long as we Black, we are African, right? And that came out of the Cultural Revolution of the late 1960s and 70s, surrounded by the politics of Black power, this embracing of our identity, right? And but there's still a need for the Cultural Revolution. This has to be, the propaganda, the medium is thick. You come out of the media environment, and the anti-Blackness and the anti-Africanness that exists in those spaces, we have to constantly fight those off. So that whereas let's say it's not out of the ordinary that everyone is somebody Black say I ain't African, I'm from Mississippi.
Yeah, or I'm a foundational American or something,
some other shallow stuff like that. FBA and ADOS garbage.
Well, we're gonna get some text from my people, because
anybody want to do? We need to do a show on that. Get some solid FBA and ADOS people on the show. And hear them out. Very respectfully. And then bury their bullshit. Dr. Jared Ball of Black Liberation, Black Power Media, he I think debated at one time Yvette Carnell, this half-breed lesbian who started, along with Antonia Moore, who started this heightening this whole American descendants of slave stuff back in, 2011, something like that. And they've gotten money from white supremacists even to push forward this narrative. The white right-wing entity of the Republican Party literally were funding them. She literally had a MAGA hat on. And then if I can go even deeper down that, Tucker Carlson about 6 weeks ago was talking about Foundation Black Americans. He's interviewing some clown on there. Anyway.
Well, yeah, they're gonna exploit that. They're gonna exploit your weaknesses, your divisions, anything that you bring up as a division. Their job is to dig beneath that and make it bigger, expand it. So that's natural. But the fact of the matter is, there are such things as indigenous Africans to North America. You're absolutely right when you say you are indigenous to America, because we were the first people here. Now that is anthropologically a fact. You can research it.
But they're
but you came from Africa. Your origin is Africa.
That's what I'm going to say. The argument around that is not
I don't want to hear the argument, because
their argument around that is couched in their hatred of Africa. So they don't make the connection about, we're indigenous to this land or somewhere else. They're literally saying we have never came from Africa. Okay,
Yeah,
they're
right,
literally
right.
saying, I had one of these clowns tell me, he said, if we're from Africa, where are the pictures of the slave ship? I said, okay, bro, I'm sorry. Back in the 16th century, maybe Kodak wasn't developing a photo mat out of it.
Hey, that was
He literally
evidence.
said that. Where's the Polaroid camera from the
That
16th
was
century?
evidence. Where is countries like Tunisia, Carthage? I mean, where are those great civilizations? They've been torn down. Where's Benin? It's completely eradicated. It was a bigger city with more construction and more walls than the Great Wall of China. It's completely gone. So don't tell me that you're looking for slave ships that were disassembled and torn up or sank to the bottom of the ocean, or that's evidence. They destroyed evidence of the slave trade. These people are not stupid. They fools, but they are not stupid. So they understand that what they're doing. But you have to understand that yes, you were here first because Africans like Mansa Musa's brother left in a huge flotilla going to the New World or going across the Atlantic Ocean. If Africans got all the way to Australia, New Zealand, all those little islands like Tonga and all of those little places, Vanuatu, and even how far away as Hawaii. Hawaii was as far away as you could get from Africa. Africans got there. If they got there, what makes you think it was not just a walk in the park to get to what became the Americas? And, so yeah, we settled here too. We were here originally. When everybody else got here, you were here. Foundationally, you are a Black African. Don't make me say it. Good.
Yeah. And I asked the brother, I say, where's the Santa Maria? Where's the Nina? Where's the Pinta?
Yeah.
Where are they? Please. All right. This kind of social media type of stuff. That movement was created on social media.
We're not
Doesn't
going
have
to
any
dignify.
organizational
We're not going
strength
to
outside
dignify
of the
the
white
nonsense.
man's VPN. Huh?
We're not going to dignify the nonsense. We're going to go straight to the anthropology. We're going to go straight to the history, and we will make sure that when we're done, everybody else is up to speed so that we can go ahead and deal with some of the real issues that we have to deal with and stop playing around with these little side arguments, because this is nothing but divide and conquer. What is it? 2000,
There's one page on social media, Facebook, that I saw, and this was a few years ago. So I'm sure it's triple by now. There's over 50,000 Black people on a page that said, we're not African, we Indians.
Yeah.
There's a documentary right now on Netflix called Pretendians.
Well,
and it doesn't even aim at this class, this ignorant class that we're talking about here. It aims at these white people whom are moving into indigenous spaces so they can get benefits from the tribes. And the tribes say, no. Yeah, we have a tribunal. We would decide whether you Cree. We would decide whether you Choctaw. We would decide whether you Seminole. White people coming and saying, I got 1/16 Choctaw, and I need to get some of those reparations.
You got $5? Yeah, $5 Indians. The $5 Indians was how white people, Native people, or what they are calling native Mongoloid people, who also came across the land bridge and got here, they call themselves foundational, but those people have been kind of crowned the judge and the arbiters of who is an indigenous person or not. But my great grandmother, it was indigenous. She was from the Tennessee Valley and from the tribes that were in the Tennessee Valley. But those are African tribes. We will understand one day that those really were indigenous people, but you have an origin. You came from Africa originally, because that is where all people are from. And again, we can look at the biology and anthropology, and we can understand that. what you're saying is true, but it's nothing for us to argue over. We are still African by origin. Europeans are African by origin. We know that, but we also have to understand that proximity brings a need politically for us to declare a place that we are going to occupy and we are going to develop. That place is Africa. We need Africa. No one can argue that Black people are not from Africa. Let's secure Africa, and then we'll revisit your idea about what parts of the Amaru and the Olmecs, and that became, the word Mexico came from Olmecs. Olmecs were a tribe of the Amaru. The Amaru is where you got the name America. I don't care if it's America, Vespucci, there's a whole bunch of nonsense floating around out there, but there are facts, and there are anthropological facts that we need to put front and center and understand that
and at the same time people. Deal with the political cultural piece of that is, and I think Malcolm said it best, in the context of political and cultural and the need for the cultural revolution. Malcolm said it best when he said, being born in America doesn't make you an American. Right. And then he gave an analogy. He said, just because cats have kittens in the oven, don't make them biscuits. Right. And if we were American, we'd be sitting here arguing over voting rights from 60 years ago. Still arguing over, peanut butter from the slave master's table. I want to be included in this, So
the most powerful thing we can do is identify and declare our Africanness first, and really discuss seriously the unification of Africa. If Africa were a world power, we would have none of these problems, because
none of these discussions would be going on.
We could dictate to the rest of the world how you would treat Black people wherever we are. So let's get it together and focus.
And I maintain when Africa wins, and it will be in our lifetime, then these discussions they will fade away, and everybody will be hugging and loving on I'm African, So we need to get back that. I mean, if you look at me, and you don't get no African than this. I will tell you. My first trip to Africa was in 1991.
Hey, I'm a prototype African. What you talking about, bro?
No, I've seen you. I've seen you in Ghana. I've seen Lance. He'll tell you, seen art in Ghana. There's no question about it.
Ethiopia, Ghana, Egypt, all over the place. In Tunisia, I am a completely melanated African. And
Black people in America will put forth that assimilation, melting pot notion that, all of us are mixed up. No, we ain't. No. I ain't mixed with nothing. I'm 100% as we were 400 years ago.
Yeah.
All right. And you can't. And we didn't even go into the
This is a little bit more biological than we want to
we're not even going to biologically. You can't. They can't mix with us. We dominate them when they touch us anyway.
With the last 10 minutes of the show here, let's make this link between what is going on in Iran and how it affects Africa. What Iran has shown to the rest of the Muslim world, that the Muslim world can win. What you're going to see now, Israel is toast. Israel is going to be gone. In the next year, Israel is going to have to completely disassemble and move everything that they have out of that area, because they are an existential threat to Iran as long as they are there. You cannot stay in the area. There will not be any kind of peace agreements that will keep you in the area. You have tore your ass, and you now have to leave. Plus, you've got this design of the Greater Israel Project that is a claim for all of this land that you see on your screen, which covers much of what is presently Islamic countries, Muslim countries, Arab countries, African countries. You want to take over these lands while you have everybody else bickering and arguing over nonsense. You want to take Mecca. Mecca's right there at the bottom of your chart there with that little hump that comes out right near on the Red Sea there, Red Sea coast. That's Mecca. And Medina is just north of that line. That is completely controlling Islam at that point. While you're arguing, these people are plotting to take your homeland for America. They're not taking this for Israel. They're taking this for America. This is a proxy state of an American project, and they want to be in that area because they want to control the Suez Canal. They want to control the Red Sea. They want to control the Persian Gulf, et cetera, et cetera. Iran is, in effect, going to put a stop to all of that, and these areas will have a chance to do the same thing I'm saying needs to be done in Africa. You need to unify in Africa. You need to unify in the Muslim states, and they need to make sure their land is secure. If your land is not secure, you have nothing. So throw out these chiefdoms, throw out these little these false leadership class.
These little gang sets. That's what they are. And if you look at and just look at the map, to Ar's point, there are three. For the audience, and especially if you're Muslim, there's three main holy sites in Islam, right? All mentioned in the Quran. The one in Jerusalem, Al-Quds, is mentioned as the faraway mosque or the faraway masjid, right? During the first 17 or 18 months of Islam's existence, our direction of prayer, or in Arabic, our Qibla, was not Mecca. It was not Mecca. Muslims didn't pray toward Mecca because Mecca was infiltrated and housed by infidels and non-believers doing crazy things like running around the Kaaba naked and with dead animals, etc. So the first 17 or 18 months, the Muslims faced Jerusalem, or the faraway mosque. And that's where we prayed until the revelation was sent down by Allah to turn toward, in Medina, to turn toward Mecca. And it was in a mosque that's today is in Medina. It's called Masjid Qiblatain. And during the third Salat al-Asr, after, right in the middle of that Salah, the revelation came down from the angel Jibril from Allah to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as he was leading the prayer, and he literally walks to the other side and faces Mecca, and from there we've been facing Mecca ever since. There's the only masjid in the world that has two minbars, what we call, where the direction of prayer is. So just a little history there as we wrap this up, but we're down to our last couple minutes. But this map is very important that we look at this, discuss this to understand the attack on not only the Muslim world, but this will. There has to be stopped. And I'll make one more point, Art, and I'll leave it to you. And that is, back in April, we had Imad Turk, who was, I guess, last week, on from the International Museum of Muslim Cultures. He's Palestinian. And he literally said, back in March, he literally said that after this, there will be no Israel. I was shocked. And you literally said that right now, that as it's played out to its logical end, there will be no Israel.
Well, it can't be, because Israel is the source of the existential threat to Iran. You have killed all the leadership in Iran. There's no way Iran is going to say, oh, well, we'll make nice with you and, we'll go back to some normalization and you can stay in the area. They would not have developed what they did in terms of artillery and missiles and those armaments that they developed and are still developing if they were going to allow for a continuation of that nonsense. Otherwise, Iran will be attacked every week. Lebanon will be attacked at will. Egypt, Jordan, Syria, Turkey, Iraq, everybody is vulnerable because no one has been able to stand against America in that area. But Iran has shown the way to do that and is also showing the way for Africa to do the same. Africa needs to stand with Sudan and the Sudanese army and help them become one state again, but more importantly, help Africa become one state once again.
Yeah, and as Lance brings in our closing music for the listening audience as we close out, we have argued here on this show that this is not a historical religious war between Shia and Ahl Sunnah. This is political. Okay, it was political from the very start. After the death of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the question came up: is who should rule? There were three fundamental groups, Lance, and that was Ahl Sunnah. There was Shia, and then there was Khawarij. They went to war. Over this one question, that question was political.
Something's going on with your audio. We can't hear you, brother.
Yeah. Okay.
We can hear the last part of what you were saying. It was garbled, but they're gonna play with us like that. No
problem. We'll do a show on it, and we'll dive into it a little deeper. From a historical perspective. And we will deal with only history and scholarship as it relates to that. Name, dates, facts. I don't play in the space of conjecture. I don't play in the space of opinion. I don't play in the space of how you feel. I could care less, right? I'm a historian by letters, and I deal with things from a historical perspective. Malcolm said it, and he said it best. Out of all of our studies, history best rewards our research. So, if you're listening to The Muslim Street again, you can find us at www.themuslimstreet.com. Next week, we will have some more insightful discussion around hot issues that are going on in the Muslim world. Oh, that's kind of cool there, man. I didn't know you had that talent. Who's going to join us? Who's that anyway?
This is Israel, the sock puppet,
The
sock puppet of the U.S.,
I like that, man. Yeah. I like you learn that at anyway. It's like, I played Jackie Robinson in the fourth grade when it came to the Black History play. I don't know what you were doing with that. So were you a puppet or something?
There's a puppet. Yeah, puppet's talking. Yeah, puppet's talking.
Yeah. So anyway, for Lance Scurv and the Lance Scurv Show, you can find him all over YouTube, dealing with topics. He's in Ghana, and he has a lot of insight as it relates. We really need to do a show on that. Expatriates coming back to the African continent. What is Lance and others are seeing, and what can they change about the direction of it? Give a critical analysis. I think that'd be very constructive because I think that is a pot that could blow up if it's not handled right. It's just they'll exploit that relationship too. And again, Art Mobley, 423, founding member of the National Association for Black Journalists. And I am Malik Aziz, editor-in-chief of the Muslim Street. We'll see you next week. Assalamu alaikum. Yes, sir.